Good afternoon, everyone. Live from Silicon Valley, California, this is Success Sadhana. My name is JM, and I welcome you all to a program today where we'll discuss improve your life now. Learn the time-tested ABS system, always better service. With our speaker today, Vaish, a veteran Bhakti yogi, author, and former monk. There are around 10 people on Zoom, and I've got Anushri helping me out in managing social media. Good afternoon, Vaish. Welcome back to another episode of Success Sadhana.
Yeah, thank you so much for a welcome back. Here we are again. And it seems that many of our themes on this program are about self-improvement. Doesn't it seem that way to you, Jam?
It does. It's always.
Nothing wrong with that, right?
You
I
can never go wrong with that. Yes.
I was speaking with someone this morning, actually texting back and forth on the theme of self-care. There's a way in which by having vitality, we can do more. There's a word in Sanskrit, jivasya, which means to live. Jiv also means to have vitality. So if we have some vitality, which is kind of a spunky little word, it has some jump to it. Vitality, it sounds good. And there's a way that if we have a way to balance our lives, there's some advice I got a long time ago from a friend who said that if you want to be able to manage all kinds of situations in your life, you should be blissful. And that's helpful also. Have vitality physically, mentally, and also be happy. If you have those two aspects, then there's a great likelihood that you can manage many of the complexities of life. So I see we have Radhakripa. Tim, great to see you. Jay's here. Kennedy, in a very nice environment. Jean, thanks for being here. Lubha. Ram, thanks for being here. Sri Krishnamurti, what a beautiful name. SK is here. Pragna Rao. Mayank's AI robot is here, hovering as usual. He's everywhere, Mayank's robot. Nirali, good to see you, Nirali. Teresa and KG. We got Vanessa. Fantastic, Vanessa. Thanks for being here. So I think that it might help if we just take a moment to recenter ourselves. Manu's here. Thanks, Manu, for being here and always being there. Take just a moment to introspect. JM, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, thought so. That's kind of how you organize your life. So why don't we do this? Sit up a little straighter than you were a moment ago and take some time to breathe and perhaps close your eyes and just notice your breath and notice that you carry around a lot of energy. There are organs working in your body constantly. And they require energy. Stomach's working, liver, kidney, we're barely aware of those things, but they're going on all the time. Heart is working maybe harder than anybody. And then we have the brain organ helping to manage the impulses coming in. And just notice that you can observe all of these functions if you're a little observant and just see that they're going on. When I first heard about involuntary systems when I was in grade school, someone told me there are involuntary systems working in your body. And I thought, what do you mean involuntary? They didn't sign up for it. They're just doing it. They do it automatically. We have all these things going on in our environment. And also, today I was talking to a friend about philosophy. What is philosophy? It helps us to perceive the world in a way that's manageable. It's one aspect of it. For instance, something happens, like somebody bumps your car, it can be of great concern. And then a friend will come and say, well, it's just a car. You can get that buffed out a little bit. Don't worry. It's just a car is philosophy. There's a way of rising above our present life situation and noticing it's going on, most of it involuntarily, and many of the aspects of it we can't control. And we know a lot less than we think we do about how everything works. But somehow or other we get through, we work it because there's a little intelligence that comes in and guides us. Step this way, not that way. If you're walking barefoot and you step on a little stone, before you even become conscious of it, your foot has intelligence and it pulls back. And it saves you from giving your full weight to that stone on your foot. You're being protected. We're all in it together. And also consider, now that we're just sitting here introspecting and considering, that we're really lucky. We have this amazing mechanism that we're sitting in, like one of those highly advanced technological instruments where you just think something and it moves in a certain direction. And we also have facility for intelligent thought, considering causality. Where did we come from? Where might we be going? What's the purpose of life? And just having that facility is so important that the ancient wisdom texts say, this is what life's all about. The rest of the way we maintain ourselves, how much you are keeping in your bank balance, take care of it, but don't over endeavor so that you forget your main purpose, which is what you're doing right now. Considering, I'm not my body. I'm a conscious being. I'm here temporarily to learn something and to improve myself. Let's take a few breaths out of gratitude that you've been given facility and also that you have friends who are doing the same thing, associates, colleagues, we're all in it together. Then if you like, open your eyes and we'll have a discussion about a few ways that we can improve our lives right now. That's something that excites me, is that it's always a way to make an improvement every day. So one concept that I'd like to present right now is that we're powerful. We have power because we're consciousness, and consciousness is more powerful than matter. So if we learn how to use or manage our energies, we have energies, a multitude of energies that are working all the time. If we take care to manage them, then we can improve ourselves, just like electricity. Electricity is no doubt, well, at this point, indispensable in our lives. But you have to manage it properly. It's electricity that comes from thunderbolts. I was just in Denver over the last weekend and there was a thunderstorm, a lot of bolts coming down. And I was thinking, I hope it doesn't come through the window where I'm sleeping because I wouldn't be able to manage it very well. But there are lots of plugs in the room that where I could manage the electricity. So we similarly have powers. And if we learn how to manage them properly, direct the energies that we have in the right ways, then our lives become much more productive. So the next slide, that's slide number 1, which you didn't see, but you will sometime soon. I'm confident of it. The next slide, let's look at the first one anyway. You can have a déjà vu experience since I just talked about it. Is that here are the ideas. You are powerful. Take a moment to remember that you're powerful. It's how you manage your energies that count, just like electricity. You have to manage electricity. If you do, there's a lot that you can accomplish. And the next word is formula. Picture's worth 1,000 words. A formula is worth 1,000 pictures. One picture is worth 1,000 words, Albert Einstein said. So there's a way in which certain substances mixed together or processes that we find, they make up a formula. I'm going to tell you the exact definition, which is as follows. Mathematical relationship, rule or expressed, a list of ingredients for or constituents of something, a method, statement, or procedure for achieving something. You're good on here. A fixed form of words, especially one used in particular contexts or as a conventional usage. A statement that formally enunciates a religious doctrine, a stock, phrase or line repeated for various effects in literary composition. There's a lot of definitions, and it comes from Latin forma, shape, mold. I particularly want to bring out this idea of a list of ingredients or a method or procedure for achieving something. So oftentimes these come to us already made, already tested, already used by many, many people. And when we have that, it's very valuable to have in our life a formula that we can work with. And this is one of the aspects of the wisdom text, is that there are formulas we can employ in our lives so that you can use them for your own improvement. And keep in mind, we're talking about how to improve your life now. Okay, so once you have a formula, and we'll get more to that in a moment, what some of the formulas for improvement are in the wisdom texts, is that consistency is king. And I love the statement that progress is slower than you want, but faster than you think. So oftentimes there's a gap between what I'm doing now, where I'd like to be, and I think, well, because I'm so far away, there's no possibility that I can make it. But any gap can be closed by a consistent effort. And one of the experiences I've had in my life of that is reading books. When I read a book, I sometimes marvel at how thin the page is. And I think it's impossible for me to finish a book because the page is so thin. Yet, if I sit down every day and complete a certain number of pages, magically, I notice that my progress in the book is noticeable. And sometimes I'll hold the section that I've finished already and look at it and think, wow, what did I do? Well, I just showed up and I did what I had to do. So sometimes we get impatient. And one of the directives given by Rupa Goswami when it comes to practice in our life to improve ourselves is to be patient. You have to be really patient. Because if you can continue, you're consistent in doing what you know is the right thing, you've got the right formula, then you're going to make obvious progress. And no one's gotten anywhere without applying him or herself and being consistent over time. So I was driving on the 101 freeway one morning to give a talk somewhere, and I saw this truck going by. I think it was a bakery truck. And on the side, it had this logo. It said, always better service. And when I saw that, I thought, yep, I'm going to use that. I call it the ABS principle, always better service. And a colleague of mine, someone I knew, is no longer in the world, but was very highly regarded person, high thinker. He used to say, my religion is finding my faults and correcting them. You could get a You could have a whole profession doing that, finding your own faults and correcting them. I think it's a good answer for when people say, what do you do? It's like, well, my profession is finding my faults and correcting them. Does that keep you busy? Yep, definitely keeps me busy. So you can remember that ABS principle. And one of the ways of improvement, starting at any time that I've noticed and working with groups and teams, I've applied this simple system because Occam's razor said the simplest solution is usually the best one. So here's how the ABS principle works. Let's just come back into the room for a minute because I'll explain it and then you'll see how simple it is. If you have a notebook or a piece of paper, you just draw a line down the middle of it. And on one side, write down what's working well. On the other side, write room for improvement. And I recommend keeping this visible when you're doing something, when you're going through some process in your life, whether it's your daily spiritual practice or anything. The ABS system works everywhere. Make notes when they come up, when incidents come up. For instance, oh, I forgot that last time I wanted to bring some flowers or whatever it may be. And write that down in your column of room for improvement. That's one of the most valuable lists you can keep. And then also remember, if something works well and you've gotten so used to it that you've forgotten you're even doing it. Have you ever done that? It's called unconscious competence. You're so good at it and it's working so well that you don't even count it anymore. In fact, that can be a downfall because sometimes when we're doing things and we get good at them and we're making progress, and then we just think, well, that's part of life. And then all you see is where there's room for improvement. And you think, my whole life is just a whole long list of room for improvements and I'll never catch up. So that's why both sides of the paper are important. Remember what you're doing well, what's already working for you. That's helpful because we need to stand somewhere and realize that progress is unlimited. As I've said a million times before, birds fly in the sky as high as they're able. Sky's unlimited though. So don't judge by how much further you have to go because you can keep going and refining yourself unlimitedly. But do find specific places where you can make a little improvement. And then you can make a quota for yourself and say, every month, I'm going to make 3 improvements. You don't have to do 3. You can do 1. And it doesn't have to be a month. But if you're aware of it, then you can work on it. And it's one of the aspects of feeling whole as a human being is knowing that you can make improvements. But you have to become diligent about recording them. When you're able to make improvements on a regular basis, there's a systemic way in which your life feels more productive. And when you live with others, and who doesn't, and they start to notice that you're more effective and that you're making improvements, they become encouraged about associating with you as well. what to speak of an organization? If you have a team or a family and you do this as a collective exercise, and there's improvements that you're making on a regular basis, deliberately, not so randomly is okay too, but deliberately is very noticeably enlivening, then everyone feels like they want to get involved and do more. And there's an old adage, and that is in an organization, when things stay the same, status quo, nothing ever gets better, it doesn't get much worse, then people do just what they have to. When things are improving and people notice the environment's getting better, then they do more than they have to. And when people feel that things are getting worse and nobody's doing anything about them, then they feel like quitting. So there's a way of motivating ourselves by staying engaged in deliberately making improvements. That's the always better service principle, otherwise known as ABS. I'm going to take a pause, feeling a need for human interaction, and see if you have any comments. Fill up the chat box, or if you'd like to respond to anything I've said so far, ask a question to stimulate more conversation. I'll count down from five. Five,
We have a
four.
question from Facebook.
Really? We like our Facebook friends. Please tell us what is that? And then we've got Kennedy, who lives in some exotic place like Belize or something. Go ahead, JM.
Yeah, so Kevin is asking on Facebook, what do you advise to stay focused in stress and pressure during business negotiations?
I recommend thinking ahead of time of how you want to serve the situation. If you stay in the category of being a servant of the person you're meeting with in the business, that's a really strong position to come from. And if you think of what's the best way to serve the situation right now in that mentality, rather than I'm trying to protect myself from being exploited and so forth, that you should also be aware of. But in a business transaction, think how you can serve the person, because really, one who's doing the best kind of service can thrive in any circumstance. So that's general advice.
Thanks. Can you please go ahead?
And I just want to comment also, JM, in that if you think about it ahead of time, before you meet with people for a business negotiation, why am I doing this? What do I want to get out of this? And what do I want the other person to get out of it? The more clear you are on that before you talk to people, then the more you'll find that there's traction in the conversation. Kennedy, please go ahead from Belize or wherever you are.
I wish I was in Belize. That sounds amazing. I'm in Santa Cruz though, which is just as lovely.
That's much better.
It's closer too. I get to see a lot of lovely people here. Yeah, I was wondering, it's easy when we make big switches. For example, in a lecture that I was listening to this past weekend, someone had mentioned that of the modes of material nature, being in the mode of goodness brings balance, being in the mode of passion can bring burnout. And I'm very familiar with the mode of passion and burnout. So when you're trying to come into balance, it's really easy to say, I'm just going to drop everything and start from scratch. But that's not always a luxury that we have. So when you're trying to come into balance from the mistake of running into burnout, what suggestions do you have?
One is to do the best you can with what you have right then. So oftentimes there's a way that I want to start over, change my clothes, my hair, my town, my house, my style, learn to write again, different signature, the whole thing. That's not so easy. We have what we have due to so much momentum. And it's helpful to find meaningful ways that you can change. Add what's positive And it tends to then systemically affect the other things that you're doing in your life. You can't fix everything. The world's not that fixable as we think, but we can prioritize what are the most important aspects in our lives. And the feeling of helplessness or being overwhelmed, too many things, either too much change, too little change, often comes about by not having a clear sense of priority. And that happens even in the moment during conversations. I wrote about this recently because it's a point I learned from a book that I liked, where the person mentioned that when people are having a conversation or a debate or an argument, they often forget why they're arguing. And then it becomes not only non-productive, but also there's a sense of frustration. The other person's not understanding me, but that's because you forgot what you were actually trying to achieve. So it can really help in a practical way to take some time and go back over your priorities. I've been doing this a lot with when we travel. My wife and I go somewhere, we take some time to talk and we say, why are we going there? What do we want to achieve when we get there? What'll it look like if we had success? I mean, these are all common things. We all know them, right? But to apply them on a case-by-case basis is so enlightening. You walk in the room with a different demeanor because you know why you're there. And so that's something I wrote about in my book called The Four Questions. First one, what's my purpose? I keep thinking about that with everything. Like, why am I doing this? And what's the point? Even when I'm writing, every sentence I write, I'm writing something right now, and I write like, why does that matter? What you just said? It's like, doesn't matter. Take it out of the paragraph. Just asking why am I doing it? What's my purpose? And one of the exercises I've recommended, because I've done it myself, therefore I feel justified in recommending it. And I feel like doing it again soon, maybe today or tomorrow, or when I have a little open time. Just lock yourself down. Put a do not disturb sign on everything. Don't try to problem solve all the things that are coming at you. Just get yourself a legal pad and a pen. If you don't have one, I have a little box of them. Talk to me later. I'll get you one. And sit down and write at the top of the page, what do I care about? What are my priorities? And just start writing it down. It's simple, but the human mind needs that. We're processing too many things and we forget what's most important. I saw a meme and it showed two sides. One was a long list of to-dos that were not organized. You could tell by looking at them. Some were urgent, but not important. And other ones were important and urgent. And, the four quadrants. And on the other side, it said, it's on one side, it said without a coach. And on the other side, it said with a coach. And then it had that grid and everything was lined up. And my mind felt a little satisfied because I saw, okay, things are put in their place of importance. And hey, we can do that. I don't know if beavers can do it. They just wake up in the morning and go, let's build a dam. And where's the wood? And start chewing. And we can introspect like we did at the beginning, take a closer look at who we are, where we came from. We can also order our lives. We can reorder them. You can reinvent yourself to some degree. We do have that momentum I talked about before, where we have a lot that is already there in our lives. So try to find the places that are most important to you, where you have some influence, and you can introduce them into your life. And one thing always affects another. So that can be helpful in getting a grip.
Thank you. Any other questions, thoughts, reflection, anything that's stuck in your mind that you want to just relay back? Go ahead, Manu.
Yeah, I have the like continuum to Kennedy's question. So, how do we understand, like, how do we get the answers of why, like, uh, through introspection, or is there more? Sometimes because how to identify if it's mind that's giving the answer or that's a real purpose.
It's really hard to say where it comes from exactly, but it does. That's one of the mysteries of the universe. But one thing's for sure, great discoveries come only unto the prepared mind. Quoting Louis Pasteur, one of my favorite quotes, because when you feel lost, when you feel overwhelmed, when you're trying to find your purpose, prepare your mind for it. And one of the ways I argue to prepare your mind is the very simple facility that humans have to say why. State the question. If you like to say it in the kind of modern way, put it out there to the universe. And you'll be surprised. So you notice things that you've prepared yourself to notice. And if you just start asking the question, don't be so keen on figuring out exactly how the answer is going to come, but do try to define it. What do you really want? And what do you want to know exactly? And why do you want to know it? We can do that as humans. And luckily, there are answers that are forthcoming, and they may come from in serendipitous situations you weren't expecting, but you're able to grab it because that's what you want to know. I give this example of practice. If you're practicing a musical instrument, unless you practice, when you meet your teacher, you don't have any questions. A teacher will say, okay, it's been a long week, right? You have any questions? Student says, no. Teacher says, you didn't practice, right? It's like, yeah, I didn't practice. But if you practiced hard 7 days, you put in at least your half hour of trying to play your instrument, try to complete the piece that the teacher gave you to complete, or the mantra on the drum, or whatever it is. When you go back there, there's inevitable questions because there's always a way to refine ourselves, but you have to prepare for it. So develop the habit of preparing your mind to take in the lessons from wherever. They do come from within. There is a universal intelligence. Because why? How do I know that? It's in the Bhagavad Gita. It talks about how answers come from within. And we all know that. Just notice how you're working on something and oh yeah, now I figured it out. And answers come through other people. We were just talking to a very intelligent person from the field of cognitive psychology, and he was pointing out how, as a group, we depend on so many other people to learn things. But if we're aware of the fact that a lot of our intelligence and our way forward comes from other people, when we're aware of what we want to know, then we'll hear it, or we'll be able to find somebody that seems competent. We say, I have a specific question. What about this? And there's your answer. So always stay hungry by making sure you're studying deeply in what you want to do and asking the question. And then there will be places where you'll get fed by your environment. JM, I'm feeling something happening over here in the chat box.
Yeah,
Thanks,
so
everybody.
your call has been answered. So we have got a couple of reflections from Maria. She said,
Maria.
sorry, Marilia, sorry, yes. What do you want to do, experience, and haven't done just yet? We should create a check-off list and of these and fully live. So that was one. And second one was,
I love that one. There's so many things you can do, but why not prioritize and find out the amazing things that you can do? Who was to say that you limit yourself to just a routine life? Marilia, thanks for reminding that. It's often a list people come up with retrospectively at the end when it's too late. You know that? I put that in my book. There was a hospice nurse writing about how so many people said, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that. Just try to do it earlier while you still have the opportunity.
Right, let's do it.
Yeah. JM, what else?
yeah, Marilia also said, create another list of any and all conflicts, butting of heads, etc. that we want cleared, wiped away while we still can.
I love that. I love your word, your use of the word list. And I learned something years ago. Always work from a list. I think I got it from Brian Tracy. He said, always work from a list. And it's just so powerful. I live with somebody, my wife, who works from a list. She always has a list, and just clearing the list. A small, it's like a calendar, very thin. It has everything. Everything's listed there. Whenever what's the next thing? Write it down. And if you look in there, it's all crossed off. And it's really helpful to have a list. And you can create any kind of list, as Marilia is saying, of conflicts, butting of heads, what you want cleared, wiped away while you still can. If it's there, you can work on it. There on your list, I mean. Go ahead, JM. Marilia is scoring big points today, like 50s, hundreds. Okay, go
Yes,
ahead.
I'm laughing over here. You're the best.
You're lighting up the scoreboard over there. Okay, we got Sri Krishnamurti, one of my favorite names here today. Go ahead.
Yes, and she's Krishnamurti saying, I seem to know my goal, but my mind does not cooperate and wants to do its own thing.
Join the club. That's what it's all about. That's where discipline comes in. It's all on the level of the mind. There's so many great things, but we can't even touch them because our mind says, oh no, just sit there. Don't get up. Don't move across the room and put that book away. And that's why there's practice. You have to start where you can. I felt like that yesterday. I had been in Denver. We worked really hard. I got home, and then I hit the ground running. I won't tell you all the stuff, but by Tuesday, Wednesday, I found myself, I was sitting there and it's like, okay, there's a few things to get organized here. And I was like, can you move? Not so much. So I said, I made a deal, like, do one thing, put that book away, get up, shuffle across the floor, put the book in the shelf. And then like, how about if you do one more thing? Would you be willing to do that, my dear mind? And it's like, all right, one more little thing. And when I was a kid, my mom read me this book called The Little Engine That Could. The little engine that could, it was a little engine and it was going up a hill, and I just remember I was chugging along. It said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. One chug at a time. So the question is, I know my goal, but my mind does not cooperate and wants to do its own thing. So one of the things is to have a way to make a deal with your mind so that you can do what you can do. You can't do everything, but do what you can do right now. Even a microscopic step in the right direction starts moving you there. And also get good association. I have friends, when I get in a certain mood, I'll say, I'm going to call my friend and get a little bit of a motivation, because I know they'll be able to commiserate because they're in the same boat. And if you find somebody who's turning and going, and you call them up and just say, hey, how about a 5-minute talk or a 10-minute talk? And then you can lift yourself and get yourself going in the right direction. Even tell them, I've got this goal, my mind won't cooperate. Can you talk to my mind? Just like sometimes somebody will, their kid won't listen, the kid won't listen to them. So they take him to somebody they respect and say, like, you talk to him. And then the person says, yeah, make your bed. It's nice. It's cool to make your bed. And he goes home. Next thing you know, he's making his bed. So those are a couple thoughts. Go ahead, JM.
Thank you. Nirali says, I realize that I have so many things to improve and it's working slowly. I have creative side, not liking any more chit-chatting and feel not belong to useless talks, materialistic movie, etc. Perhaps I'll make others bored of me. Good for me, right?
Sure. When you're moving in a direction that you've decided on, there may be people that don't want to go the same way because they have their own way in life. And there may be also, when you start making progress, some people will be happy and other people will get envious of you. and they'll say, oh, that's useless and so forth. It's easier to do that sometimes for people than to try to improve themselves. So it's quite natural when you move it, when you decide to get more self-disciplined, other people may complain. Be ready for that. Yes, I agree with you. Good for you.
Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, Nelly. Yeah, do you want to cover some more slides and come back?
Yeah, let's do a couple slides and come back for a crescendo on the board. So one of the principles I mentioned earlier about service mind is service generated by love leads to satisfaction. This is one of the formulas. This is a formula. I talk about it in my book. There's the question, how may I be of service? It's so powerful because actually selfless service brings us natural satisfaction. Try it out. Try out doing some selfless service, or in any circumstance, asking yourself, how may I be of service? It's a way of lifting yourself out of the whirlpool of unlimited desires in the material world. Quote by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love. So here's a formula. You keep it in mind. No longer am I saying make a tattoo, because I said that and someone went out and got a tattoo. I just found that out when I was in Denver. It's like, yeah, such and such got a tattoo because you told them to. Service generated by love leads to satisfaction. Good formula to keep in mind, not on your arm, unless you really want to. Okay. ABS, before, during, and after. Write down what worked well, where there's room for improvement. It's just a reminder to keep that going. Any process that you're used to doing, you can improve. As long as you make a note of it, don't waste the gaps. And do stand on your achievements and remember what you've come to have as assets. Here's a quote. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. Knowing what must be done does away with fear. It goes to this idea of prioritizing what must be done, what's possible to do. Once you know that, it doesn't matter how confusing life is, because at least you know where you're going. Confused means things are all mixed together. But amidst that so-called confusion or confluence of various competing ideas, quarrels, I was talking to one of my good friends who's a scientist the other day, because I was preparing for a talk, and he was talking about scientific conferences that he goes to, and where there are these ideas expressed and papers read. And I said, oh yeah, and it's so important to come out with some unassailable point or idea. And he stopped and looked at me. It was on Zoom, and he smiled and he said, no thought is unassailable. Everything will be assailed. So make sure you know what must be done, because somebody's going to assail it. So do your due diligence to figure out what your duty is, what your service is, and how to stay fixed in it. That way, even if you're assailed by your own mind, you'll know that you're doing your duty and going in the right direction. It's vital. Okay, your lists, going on with lists, room for improvement. Giving some quotes here from known personalities. Bruce Lee said, it is not a daily increase, but a daily decrease. Hack away at the inessential. And I like how we heard that from the list of, where was that? Was that Maria?
Yeah.
She said not liking anymore. Where was it?
It was conflicts and butting head list.
Yeah, make a list of them. So this is a similar advice from another successful person. It's not a daily increase, but a daily decrease. Hack away at the inessential. That feels good too. Get rid of clutter. Get rid of make a list of the things that are not essential in your life and take great satisfaction in crossing them off your list. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. You want some of this? No, I don't take that anymore. You want to talk about this? No, I don't talk about that anymore. Wow. That's really using your human life to full potential. Then we have towards prioritization. We have Goethe, the German philosopher Goethe. He said, things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. And there's a way in which don't major in minor things. Find out what's most important, prioritize your life, and then major in the most important things. Things which matter most must never be at the mercy of things which matter least. Hope that's helpful. I love it. Okay, next one is, it's quote day, Friday quote day. I'm glad you showed up for Friday quote day. Make your list visible. Oh, this is so powerful. If I was able to turn my camera, which I can't because I wouldn't be able to get it back in place, but on my wall right over here in my office, I have those huge Post-it notes, the ones you can stick to the walls. I use them all the time. I have a whole bag full of colored pens, and everything I'm trying to imbibe, learn, and so forth, I put it up so I can see it all the time. I'm memorizing some things, so I have a system for it. I put it on the wall, and that way it's always visible to me. And also little formulas, like here's one I can prove right here on my desk because I'm writing. I write, and this I've had for years. I put it in a little plastic thing. You want to hear what's on it? Sorry,
Yes.
can't read
Yes,
it.
please.
All right, okay. It says right here, book writing tip by Vicky Hingis. Here it is. If you want to write a nonfiction book, don't focus on quote unquote writing a book. Instead, focus on 1, gathering information, 2, creating fresh ideas, 3, organizing your material, and 4, dividing the material into chapters. You won't feel intimidated and your book will seem more doable. Goes for life too, doesn't it? And so my point is, if you've got a formula and you've got a list, make it visible. And I think that's the point in the next slide also, is make your list visible. If you just do that one thing, you'll be more successful and you can thank me later. Here where it says, Louisa May Alcott, far away, there in the sunshine are my highest aspirations. I may not reach them, but I can look up and see their beauty, believe in them, and try to follow where they lead. Lists are powerful. Make them visible. Next slide. Unless somebody interrupts me with a great idea, I'm happy, or even a mediocre idea, please feel free. Make at least 3 improvements each month, because drops a day, wear stone away. My teacher used to say this all the time. He's highly successful in doing a lot of things within a short amount of time. He was able to really focus himself on his mission in life when he was 70, survived for another 13 or so years, and he wrote almost 70 books. And he used to say, drops a day, like this with his hand, wear the stone away. And look at that stone down there. I've seen it in various places where the ocean is landing, a wave hits, or a drop of water comes from a spring and the stone gets worn away. So if you're methodical about making your 3 improvements every month, you'll notice that it can wear away even stone-heartedness or the stubbornness of your own mind or others in your life or situations.
And that stone becomes smooth.
And the stone becomes smooth. That's
Yes.
such a nice point, and it's something that Steve Jobs, I heard, brought up, and he talked about how his father or somebody in his life had a rock tumbler and had put in these nondescript rocks, but then by their friction and tumbling in the sand and water that's in those tumblers. My dad had one too. And then they come out being polished and beautiful. So a lot of the friction that we have in our life reveals actually our best qualities. Yeah, nice point. JM, I'll do a few more slides and then I'll come back to the board. I'll go a little more quickly. Write down your smallest next steps. That's SNS, smallest next steps. Don't try to take big steps because then you'll get confused and you say, oh, I can't do that one. Find something that's smaller that you can say, oh, I can do that. Make it so small that you say, anybody can do that, even me. And then take that step. As long as you're moving forward, you're okay. Next is work from your list. I already talked about that. And now we have time to go to the big board.
Yeah, there are two which have come in. One is Kennedy was trying to recap the 4 steps which you have in your list in front of you. One is gathering information. Second was generating new ideas. The fourth one was organizing them in chapters. What was the third one?
Oh, you mean from this thing?
Yeah.
Sure. I can do it for you because I got my list visible. Number 1, gather information. That's fun. I like to interview people. There's so many people out there so smart. Humans are so smart. And people have specialized and they have their own realization in life. What a wealth of information. And it's the best excuse in the world, writing a book, because you say, I'm writing a book, can I talk to you? It's like, sure. And then you get access to the brightest minds in the world. Okay, number 1, settle down, Vaishi. Number 1, gather information. Number 2, create fresh ideas. It's so powerful. When you're thinking, when you're creating, when you're gathering information, fresh ideas will come to you. Oh, this relates to that. This is, and if you have fresh, new, creative ideas, that's the stuff of life. Number 3, organize your material. We can do that because we're humans, we're smart. And number 4, divide the material into chapters. That kind of makes it available to everybody else so they can go through it. That's why humans like books so much. It's all cream. Okay? Now we got them.
Thank you.
Now you got a formula. If you didn't get anything else out of today, you got one formula. It'll change your life. Okay, what else? What else on the board or anybody else has to say in the last 7 minutes we have?
Kennedy also had a reflection. I think I have a checklist of things I want to do, habits I'd like to cultivate, change to make. It's a 3 columns, soon to come, in progress, finished, steady habit. I like giving myself a gold star just for starting.
Oh yeah, gold stars are great. And I love your system. When you have that system putting a gold star, you can actually still get those little stickers. Put them next to the things you achieved. And that's part of remembering what you've achieved, because we're so forward looking. Sometimes we can just see all the stuff we still have to do and feel a little bit anxious because I'm not doing enough. I'm not doing enough. I talked to somebody yesterday in another country and they're high achievers. They needed a little pep talk. Remember I said I talk to people to get my thing? Well, they called me for their thing. So then here's what I told them. I said, you need to balance out your anxiety. So I said, you can take 20% anxiety about what you haven't done, but keep 80% happy about what you've already done. It's a better formula than the 80 anxiety about what I haven't done yet and 20% satisfied and aware of what I already have. China's trying, and it was amazing because when I said it, he repeated it a few times and he said, oh yeah, my wife's out here too. She likes it also. And you can rearrange your priorities in your mind. It's up to you. You can rise above your life situation and say, wait a minute, I've got a lot going on and I'm really lucky. Make that your 80%. Put your 20% as the cutting edge of here's my list to do, more things to improve. Otherwise, appreciate what you already have.
Thank you. Those were the items on the board. Did I miss anything? Please type in chat box, or we'll be happy if you can unmute and share your voice live. Any questions, thoughts, any reflection? Anyone, if you go out and somebody asks, what would you say to them? What do you walk away with?
Okay, yes, please go ahead. Who was that?
So Nirali.
Nirali. Okay, please go ahead.
I think I like your point on, and I was thinking about river as well, like friction in our life is good. It brings the good quality in us, and it brings us the direction that we want to go eventually. So having friction, sometimes I didn't like, I resisted. But then it eventually helps me toward going to the right path, going more closer to the Lord, or improving on myself. Because sometimes, like, being too nice, those are good qualities, but not all the time. Things like that. And the stubbornness in the mind also needs to be improved. Like, what you don't want to think, it will think. So those are the few things that I realized that I need to improve. But like you said, 80 to 20%, I am at that 20% need more improvement, and 80% has been improved. So thinking that way really helps. Some things you can't get rid of it. Life won't be perfect, and that perfectness or the call all the time for the perfectness, I want it like that. It's not going to happen, and that I have to accept, and that helped me a lot. Slowly improving.
Oh yeah, great. Nice reflection, Nirali. I think it really helps a lot of us because there's a tendency to overthink things, expect too much, manage expectations. What we are is more important than what we have or what we've achieved. This is one of the themes of the Bhagavad Gita. I realized that when I was a kid, I was so much anxiety about achieving all the time. And I read the Bhagavad Gita and I thought, wait a minute, I'm not even part of this world. I'm a soul. And, there's a whole nother thing, a whole nother aspect to my life that I haven't really looked at. And when we can get in touch with that through our spiritual practice and have that sense of, I exist, that's amazing. Whoever thinks like that, we get so absorbed in our life situation and what I haven't done yet, and what's on my to-do list and problem solving, we grind our brain. Take a little time to go inward and say, wow, consciousness is naturally illumination. It's natural illumination. And I am that consciousness. And if you feel that peace, that you're in the eye of the storm, and you're not so eager to rush out there again. But when you do go out there and you have that sense of calm within, that what I am is more important than what I have or what I achieve, you're far more effective in the way you deal with people, for sure. And when you deal with anxiety-ridden situations, then you can also be the one in the room that's not losing your head while things are supposedly falling apart, but they're probably falling together. And you have that sense, it's okay, we're in a perfect universe.
Yes.
You have to have a little of that to deal with the world. Really nice reflection, Nirali. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
We have a question from Jay, and Jay says, I appreciate your wisdom sharing. Thank you. I've learned how critical self-faith is, as it helps retain our agency and lead towards many other self-improvements. When you've fallen off the meditation or self-care wagon, what encourages you to reinvest in healthy practice?
Oh, a formula. I have a formula for you. And I resonate with what you said. Everybody does. And that is, progress is marked by a series of comebacks. Don't mark progress that I did everything perfectly and I'll never do it ever wrong again. Don't tell yourself that. Tell yourself that I'm always going to pull back to the center and come back to the practice. That's where, when you have a well-vetted path to walk in life and a philosophy to live by. And you just keep coming back to it. As somehow or other, the force of time, the force of association, the force of our own minds pushes us in one direction or another. There's always mission creep. And the key is to know how to get back to where you're in your purpose again. And don't be worried that you were pulled off course. It's going to be natural. Just pull yourself back to where you were. That can help. You're welcome, Jay. Thanks for asking such a universally applicable question. Oh, it's 101. Well, everybody, we came together purposefully and we used a human invention, Zoom. Who knows how that got here? What to speak of the screen and the hard drive and all that stuff. I don't know how it works, but we worked it. We came, we talked, we got a few ideas. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Krishna. Thanks, Marilia. Thanks, David Prasanna. Thanks, T. Mueller. Thanks, Pragna Rao, Teresa, Sri Krishnamurti, Ram, Luba, Pramila, Aditi's here. Sundara. Oh, Sundarananda's here. Nirali was way up on the scoreboard today. Radhakripa, thank you for always being present here. Manu, thank you for your illuminating thoughts and presence. Tim, thank you. Jay, excellent. Kennedy, coming from some exotic place known as Santa Cruz. And anybody else I missed, sorry, but great to see you all. And please keep the transcendental vibration going. You know the yogis high in the Himalayas? They come out of their caves every once in a while, need little roots, fruits, and get some fresh air and light when sometimes they look up and they see their colleagues on the high peaks and they go, oh, here's somebody else. And they have this joyful way, a celebration of life and their practice. They put their hands up in the air and they yell out if they have to their brethren and friends. They say, Hari Bol. It's a cool phrase. It says, please keep the transcendental vibration going. You want to try it?
Yes. Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol!
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you soon.